Hello again. I can't tell you how glad I am to have the opportunity of sharing these stories of men and women who have lived out the core values of the Christian and Missionary Alliance. Today I want to tell you about a man who really understood that knowing and obeying God's Word is fundamental to all true success. Have you ever had to make a really tough decision? I mean, one that you could put into the category of life or death? Let me tell you the story of John Wilfinger's terrible dilemma. In the 1930s, a group of courageous Alliance missionaries went to the most dangerous place on earth. They took the gospel to the wild men of Borneo. They were cannibals, headhunters, and no one knew how they would respond to the Western missionaries. But somehow, as in so many other places, the Dayak tribesmen saw the love of God in the missionaries who lived with them and learned their language and their ways. And a new movement for God was born as a small group of Jesus followers was formed in the jungle. One of the hardest things about making disciples of these new believers was teaching them the importance of telling the truth. You see, in Dayak culture, lying was a virtue. It was a good thing to be the biggest liar. Changing that part of the cannibal culture was very hard, but the missionaries were making progress. Then the Stone Age met the 20th century with an awful crash in the form of World War II. And an army of Japanese invaders came to Borneo. Their tactics were extremely harsh. John Wilfinger was under no illusions about what would happen to a Western missionary who was captured by the Japanese, because they had already brutally murdered other missionaries. He had a terrible decision to make. The Dayak tribesmen were very willing to hide him. And with their protection and help, there was little doubt that he could ride out a long war and emerge safely. But for that to happen, the new believers would be forced to lie to the Japanese army when they came looking for the missionary. After such a long struggle to teach them the importance of obeying God's Word, Wilfinger felt that he could not allow the Dayaks to lie in order to protect him. So he voluntarily surrendered to the Japanese, and they summarily executed him. The core value that we're exploring today says that knowing and obeying God's Word is fundamental to all true success. Was John Wilfinger a success? You be the judge. At the conclusion of World War II, a new group of Alliance missionaries went back to the jungle, and very quickly, one of the great people movements of the 20th century began. As hundreds of cannibals gave their lives to Christ, the flickering light of the gospel grew into a spreading flame. What does it look like to live out that value in the midst of 21st century America? Let's ask Derwin Gray, a retired NFL star, that question.